Hello again and welcome back. Have you ever heard of Rensis Likert? No? Well, now you have, and you will remember him every time anyone ever says to you, on a scale of 1 to 10, what do you think about whatever? Mr. Likert's big idea is that you can use scaling to work out the intensity and strength of a particular view. Like many works of genius, the core idea is intuitively simple, whilst being the basis of applications that can be both deep and complex. But for our purposes, let's allow Mr. Likert to keep it simple and to use his scale to help us think about our own priorities. So here's something to do. Think back to the turn of the year and make a list of 7 to 10 priorities that you had then. These could be very broad, things like work, family, rest, learning, or they could be more specific, subsets of a single idea. So if, for example, you were thinking about your business, your priorities could have included taking or completing a training course, building a new partnership, launching a new product, or relaunching an existing one. Give yourself a few minutes to think about that and come up with a list. And if it helps, you could revisit your thoughts from a previous podcast and reflect on what you were doing at the turn of the year. Once you have your list, what then will you do with it? Well, the amount of time and effort you are devoting to the various activities you listed will be a powerful indicator of the extent to which each was a priority. So for each item on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 as low and 10 as high, note how important each of these was to you at the time. That will give you a priority order. Now review and revisit your list and reprioritize in the light of what's happening in your world now. Rescale each item using Likert's 1 to 10 and see what's different. Has anything dropped off the list? What's been added to it? What are you doing now you weren't doing then? Speaking personally, not only was podcasting not on my list in January, it wasn't even a vague consideration. So what about your list? What have you noticed? This straightforward exercise will tell you what priorities have changed. And now let's start looking ahead to see what's coming over the horizon to grab your attention. So what's happening in your world is changing. You may be out of lockdown or cycling between being in or out of it depending on where you live. You may be about to come off furlough. You may be planning for the effects of the end of the Brexit transition period. You may have saved a lot of money during the last few months and are thinking about how to reconfigure your finances. These sorts of questions will start to tell you what priorities are emerging. Now all this is really useful because at some point your current priorities and your emerging priorities will collide. They may collide in a measured and controlled way, like a new carriage being added to a train, or they may crash against each other as they compete for the limited space, time and other resources that your life has to accommodate them. And here's where Mr. Likert can help again. Go back to your current priorities and ask yourself in what direction they're moving. Which priorities are going up the scale, which are sliding down, and which are resolutely staying put. This will help you get ahead of the game should you get into the point where you need to reorder your priorities yet again. And if you're really getting into this, you could revisit both your current and emerging lists and ask yourself how quickly each of your priorities is moving along the scale. As well as being a powerful diagnostic and planning exercise in its own right, this can be a useful basis for a conversation with others around how their priorities have changed or are changing for the future. Understanding that can be extremely helpful in keeping each of your business, collegiate or other relationships on an even keel should one or more of them face the challenges of future uncertainties. So the next time you're relaxing or celebrating, please raise a glass to Rensis Likert. And if you can spare a minute, drop me a line and let me know, on a scale of 1 to 10, how useful you've found his ideas to be. Until next time.